Understanding the wisdom of serpent. In Matthew chapter 10 verse 16, Jesus commands his disciples and us to be wise as serpents. The word wise is the Greek word which means prudent, careful, cunning, discerning, thoughtful, intelligent, or sensible. This word perfectly depicts the behavior and actions of snakes. They are cautious, discerning, intelligent, and prudent in how they act. But why did Jesus tell us to be as wise as serpents? There's obviously something he wanted us to learn from the behavior of snakes. Should you be squeamish about serpents and snakes? Stay with me for the next moment so you can get the full impact of what Jesus was telling us. Remember, Jesus is the one who chose to use a serpent to make this point. So let's consider the behavior of serpents for a moment and see how this relates to us being wise in the way we live our lives. First, when serpents move into a new territory, they don't announce their presence. Instead, they lay low, stay quiet, and blend into the environment.
As snakes evaluate a new situation, they see what kind of opportunities are in the area. They identify places of shelter, and they find hiding places to protect themselves from attack. They observe and see where they can find the easiest prey. When all these facts are assimilated, the serpent is ready to act. And Jesus said there is wisdom in a serpent's behavior, from which we need to learn.
Lesson 1. When God tells you or me to do something new, it is wise for us to move carefully into that new phase of our lives. A common mistake is to act too fast, acting hastily before all the facts are gathered and assimilated can lead us to make erroneous decisions. In fact, one serious mistake can cause us to lose an opportunity altogether. It's better to lay low, stay quiet, and blend into the environment for a while, learning from the sights and facts we observe. Second, serpents are wise enough to know when to seize the moment and strike. Knowing when to act is as important as knowing when to lay low. When prey passes before a serpent, that serpent knows it's time to strike. The snake waits too long, the opportunity will pass, and the prey will reach an irretrievable position. When it's time to act, put your fears and emotions aside and seize the moment. I have seen so many people pray and pray for divine opportunity to come to them. They wait for that golden moment to come, and at last, it does. A great door of opportunity stands directly in front of them. It's time to act, but rather than seize the moment and walk through that door, they pause just a little bit longer. God brought them exactly what they had been waiting for, but because they paused, they lost the opportunity. When they finally got around to saying yes, it's too late. You and I are not brilliant enough to figure out the right timing for everything by our own logic. So be very careful not to move too fast, and be careful also not to delay when the time is right to act. Open your heart to the Spirit of God, and let Him begin to teach you when to lay low and when to strike.
Let's also take a look at another verse in Proverbs 22:3 that says, "The prudent sees danger and hides, but the simple go on and suffer for it." This verse highlights the importance of being prudent and wise in our decision-making. We need to be discerning and evaluate situations carefully to avoid danger. Another example of a wise serpent in the Bible is found in the book of Numbers chapter 21. The Israelites were on their journey through the wilderness and became impatient and began to complain against God and Moses. As a result, God sent poisonous serpents among the people, and many of them were bitten and died.
But when the people confessed their sins and asked Moses to pray for them, God instructed him to make a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. Anyone who was bitten and looked at the bronze serpent would live.
This story teaches us the importance of recognizing our sin and asking for forgiveness. It also shows us the power of obedience and faith in God's instructions.
Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." This verse reminds us to trust in God's wisdom and guidance, rather than relying on our own limited understanding.
Another relevant verse is James 1 verse 5, which says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." This verse reminds us that we can seek wisdom from God through prayer, and that he will generously provide it to us.
The wisdom of the serpent can teach us valuable lessons about living wisely and discerningly in our daily lives. By observing the behavior of serpents and studying the examples in the Bible, we can learn to move carefully into new phases of our lives, recognize opportunities and act on them, and trust in God's wisdom and guidance. Seek God's wisdom and allow him to shape us into wise and discerning individuals who bring glory to his name.
A helpful mnemonic to remember the main points. Matthew 10 verse 16 reminds us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But what does it mean to be wise like a serpent? Let's break it down. First, remember to lay low. When snakes move into new territory, they don't announce their presence. They lay low, stay quiet, and blend into the environment. Similarly, when we encounter new situations in our lives, it's wise to lay low for a while, observe and gather information, and assess our options before making any hasty decisions. Next, seize the moment. When snakes see an opportunity for prey, they know when to strike. Timing is crucial, and we must be ready to seize the moment when the time is right. But we must also be careful not to move too fast or delay when we should act. Let's be wise. That is, prudent, careful, cunning, discerning, thoughtful, intelligent, and sensible, just like the behavior of snakes. And let's be harmless. Like a dove, let's strive to live peacefully and without malice towards others.
Lay low, seize the moment, and be wise and harmless. With these principles in mind, we can navigate through life with greater wisdom and discernment.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiration and motivation.